We're going to get into our next little workshop, and this is going to be showing how to make your player stop jumping. Now first what you can do is get out a stick and beat it until your computer breaks, and then your player will stop jumping. But the probably more financially wise way to do this would be to just add in some code to make them stop jumping. Now right now bounciness is making this character jump, but if I want to pop him over to the side, he'll stop. And then, well, yeah, he's still jumping up in the air. Every time I hit spacebar, in this case, he just keeps popping up. So I just want him to jump once, okay? And so without using any harsh language or anything like that, I'm going to get him to stop jumping. And we're going to get this thing to stop freaking out. So give me 1 second here. Get that to go away. There we go. Pop Gamesalad back up again. And there's that. Okay. Alright, good stuff. So if you ever see this happen and Gamesalad's giving you a problem, I would just say quit Gamesalad, and you guys may see this happen from time to time. We'll go ahead and save it just to be safe, and then you want to open up Gamesalad again. We're working inside testbed, and what we want to do is make a single jump. Alright, so we're going to take our player. I'm going to close up a lot of this stuff so it's easier to navigate what we're looking at. We don't need collide showing, gravity, we know what that is. We just want to play with jump. Okay. Now with jump, if you only want a single jump, you want to make sure you're touching a platform or the ground before you jump up in the air. So we're going to be playing with change attribute here again. Okay, so we're going to create a rule. Yet again, you can create a rule up here, or you can drag it from the behaviors. And in this one, we're going to do something you guys haven't seen before. We need to make a variable. Okay, and the variables will pop up in the attributes area right here. So you could say we're going to make an attribute. So we're going to, for the first time, see attributes. Now the way to add one in, just like everything else, we're going to hit the plus. It's going to pop up this pick an attribute type. They have boolean, which means it's on or off, yes or no, black or white. It's just two things. It can only be two different states. So that can be handy for some things. In fact, that's what we're going to use here in just a second. We're going to talk about the rest of the attributes here. Text is just what it says. It's looking for some text value. Integer is going to be any number that does not have a decimal place. Real is anything that does have a decimal place. Angle is going to be represented in degrees, and index is something we're going to use when we jump into tables and databases and things like that. So for right now, we don't need to worry about index. Let's go with boolean. Hit choose. Okay, now it's going to show up right here as new attribute. If you're just like, hey, where'd it go? I just made 20 different attributes and this one just disappeared somewhere. It's probably going to be the only one called new attribute. In this case, I want to double click on it. And since it's a boolean, it's going to have a checkbox here, so you can see preload art is a boolean. A lot of these things down here, fixed rotation, movable, can sleep, these are all booleans, either on or off, right? This one I want to call touching ground, because I want to make sure that the character is on the ground before we make a jump. So we go down here to our new rule after we've made our attribute. We're going to leave it as off for right now, because a lot of times people start with their character in the air, or they may be somewhere else, so we don't know if they're touching the ground yet. So we'll just leave that off for now. We're going to go over here to actor receives event. If our player is overlapping or colliding with a platform, then we're going to say change attribute. We want to make sure that the attribute that we just made, which is going to show up now inside of this attribute menu, see right here, is touching ground. We're going to make sure touching ground is true whenever we're touching the ground. And yet again, we're going to use the otherwise, and if it's not touching the ground, guess what? We're just going to copy this, bring it down. We're going to make sure it says false or flas. But I would use false because that's what the computer understands. Alright, so now we have our rule. I'm going to call this touching ground. So we have it. And now we're ready to go, right? No, sorry. We just made something, but we didn't do anything with it yet. So we need to put it up here in our jump. Now I'm going to get rid of move, and I'm going to get rid of this accelerate too, because it's just kind of cluttering everything up at this point. But now we got to make our condition for our jump just a little bit more complicated. Okay? So right here we have when all. Okay, now when all means when everything we put in here into these conditions is true, then it'll do this. Okay, we also have any, so that means if any of these are true, then that means we're going to do this. So we're looking for all of these conditions to be true in this instance before it starts doing anything. So I hit the little plus here. That'll give us another condition for this particular action. And we're going to say when actor receives. Now we're actually going to be checking an attribute. We're going to go in here, and when our attribute that we just made, touching ground, is true, then we're going to pop up in the air. Okay? And you'll know from our rule that we said right here, as soon as we're not touching the ground, touching ground is going to be false. So we shouldn't be able to jump again, right? Okay, we're going to save it real quick. We're going to hit preview. And you might be able to hear me touching the space bar, but I'm trying to get it to jump up again in the air, and it just ain't doing it. Okay? So if you want to have a single jump, that's the way to do it, guys. Okay? You just have to start working with your own variables, or as they call them in Gamesalad, attributes. And then you can have a single jump. Okay? All right, well, that's it for right now. We're going to come back with a few more workshops a little later on, and that's our single jump, getting into attributes and how to manipulate those as well.